Okay, good evening. This is the meeting of the Finance Committee, October 3rd. Let's see, the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from September 11.
I have it said the minutes from the previous meeting was unanimous, but I abstained.
Do you have a particular article, or is that just generally? Or
Was that the meeting?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the meeting minutes? Approval of the meeting minutes?
Yes.
This is the meeting minutes. from
Yeah, so
September.
in those meeting minutes, it says...
Oh, approval of the prior minutes? you mean?
Yes, yes.
So Leanne, this is the bottom of the first page, approval of previous meeting minutes. Unanimous except for abstention of Dave Levine. If you could just make that edit.
Correct that, yeah, I wasn't here,
Okay.
it was hard for me to see.
No, that's fine.
I'll take care of that.
So thank you.
No, but the meeting minutes were great, by the way.
Yes, they were. Okay, any other changes, or can we approve with that edit? Al makes a motion to approve, second by Vin with...
Second.
Okay. I'm going to go this way now
What?
for a vote.
Oh,
Roll call.
Roll
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Minutes? Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Mike Nicholson, if you're there?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Wish everybody a happy new year that's celebrating Rosh Hashanah.
Al points out that last night, today was Rosh Hashanah, so
Shana Tova.
Wish everybody a happy new year that celebrates it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm celebrating it here, Al.
what better place? Okay, so minutes are taken care of. Okay, so we're going to start going through articles. Chris George has something to attend to afterwards tonight, so we're putting him up first. Thank you for coming, Chris. Sure. With respect to all of these articles, I think what I'd like to do is, well, first of all, for Leanne's benefit and anyone else, your name and your title.
Sure. Name is Christopher George. I'm the Director of Information Technology and now Forensic Systems.
Okay, I'm going to do that for a little while, because there were a few times in the past I didn't really know who was speaking, but I think that may... Don't look at you. I'm going to ask you for a 20 or 30-second elevator speech on how much you're looking for and what you're looking for.
Give the article number 2, please.
Yes. Yeah. This is
Elevator speech?
Yeah. It's how much and what is it that it's for? Just the basics. What you, if somebody asks you for in 20 seconds, what you're looking for. All right.
Yep.
I have a couple of preliminary questions I'll ask, then I'm going to open it up to everybody else. Okay.
Great.
So to answer David's question, this is Article 9. So go ahead, Chris.
All right, 23-second elevator. Okay. So this is a CCTV article to cover two different main concerns. The first concern is dealing with union and EPA, and then the second is to deal with issues surrounding police activity at certain locations that we've had either hit and runs or pedestrians struck. Certain issues, but that are outside town buildings.
And let me just stop you. CCTV meaning closed caption TV?
Closed caption security cameras.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry. That's the elevator.
That's
point of
the
view,
elevator
yes.
picture. Okay. All right. So this is clearly a capital expense.
It is clearly, yes.
So I guess my first question is, has this gone through the capital subcommittee?
It has not gone through capital subcommittee.
Okay. So if it has not, I guess my follow-up question would be, is there any urgency, immediacy to any of this? And if so, can you articulate what that is?
I can.
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
So the urgency only covers the first main two. One is fire department. The fire department, after union agreement, agreed to have cameras in their facility, with the exception of the domestic living areas. Okay. To cover visibility of apparatus and of firefighters' belongings within the facility. There have been issues in the past, I'm not going to speak to those issues, those aren't my department, where cameras are now coming upon us to be needed in those areas to protect that environment. We also have motor vehicle issues dealing with the fire trucks leaving Spruce Street and leaving Birch Street and being, at times, T-boned by cars coming down that street too fast because they can't be seen. And we're usually left with the he said, she said scenario. The other one is Dilla Street Water Department. The EPA put out an advisory last year that we should be covering all of our water resource areas with cameras. We are doing so on the newly constructed pump stations. Those are all actually part of the project costs, so it's not an additional capital cost. We're at least now putting them into the project costs, so at least we don't have to keep getting money for those. But the main part of it is actually covering Dilla Street and the main Dilla Street water treatment facility.
Okay. I mean, I guess my principal concern is I don't think that the October Finance Committee meetings should become a substitute for the capital.
I agree.
Like, for example, when was the fire union contract signed? Do you recall, Chief?
We're in the final year, so it was sometime maybe in the last calendar year.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, there's been ample time for this to be before our capital meeting. I'm just concerned that we're upending that process, but I've spoken enough. I'm going to open it up to the rest of the committee.
I just didn't hear a dollar amount. Did I miss a dollar amount?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't give you a
That
dollar
would be
amount.
part of the elevator speech.
Sorry, part of the elevator speech is the dollar amount is now a stable $345,000.
Sorry, Chris, 325?
345.
345, thank you.
And that's different from the $400?
Yes, that is different from the original 400,000. because-
442 is no longer.
Correct. 345.
And where does that get you?
That gets us the fire departments, the water department, one of the Godfrey Brook Water Treatment Facility, which uses chemical, and additional cameras at the youth center to cover child pedestrian strikes and the basketball court, which has no coverage.
So this is hardware and software and within?
This is hardware and labor.
And hardware, and then what is the cost after? It'll be rolled into your operating budget after that?
There is minimal operating expense, and that comes out of my operating budget, which is just
Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. I can't hear. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I was just curious if once it's following year when it becomes operating, it'd be like a subscription fee or something like that.
There's a maintenance fee, and that comes out of my operating expense. Yep. It's minimal.
It's minimal. All right, thank you.
Question with the water department. Are you putting this in your cost center to pay for the water department, for the technology of the water department, or are they sending you the money back? Because they're a little different in that they have a source of
Yes,
income.
I mean, they are typically governed over, was it enterprise fund?
Yes.
Yes. Normally, when it comes to different bills and whatnot, bills are reimbursed through the enterprise fund. I have not had this discussion yet with Zach as to how water department would be reimbursed if it was reimbursed for that need. But the capital end of it would be the cameras.
Do you know the answer to that one, Paul? Do you know the answer about how that would get handled with the water
The
department?
budget will be paid, the expenses will be paid out of the IT budget.
Okay.
Regardless if the cameras are going into any of the facilities around town, it'll all be focused right on that budget with this amount of money, managed by Chris submitting all the bills to our department. But the funds will come out of the IT appropriation.
Oh.
Why?
Oh, that's the way it's always been done. Not that that's the right answer.
We never
But
owned
all it would be paper transfer from taken from any department. It's not part of their budget, it's part of the IT budget that satisfies all town facilities. How else would you want to do, how would you want to do it? Appropriated separately up to each department?
No.
Just the enterprise
fund.
Right.
Maybe just for the enterprise.
Maybe just for, okay, maybe just for that,
The
but
difference I see, Brownie, is that the water company has a source of revenue.
understood.
And when we bought the water company, we said that only the subscribers or the users would pay. This opens the door to saying the town, people who aren't on the water system are also going to get charged. So my only question is, why are we doing that? Why isn't it coming out of the water company?
I'll follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I happen to be clerk of the Water Commissioners. Has there been any discussion with the Water Commissioners about this at all? Are they familiar with it? Do they know what we're talking about here?
It's only been discussed with Dave Conry in the past.
It hasn't been discussed with the commissioners?
It has not.
Okay. Well, that's the stuff probably ought to take.
Okay.
Question number 2, is there a timing issue? I mean, Chief has said that this was started a year ago. but this is the first time we're discussing it, is 10 days before we have to make recommendations.
I mean, I
Could
guess
this be put off till,
that's my fundamental question. If it's been lingering since December or January, nobody can really credibly say this is an emergency. So the question is, shouldn't this go through the capital process and we revisit it in May, where there's an opportunity for bids, evaluation of whether anything
I'm
needs...
looking for your recommendation on
Yeah.
that, so.
that feels better for me.
I just want to make sure it's okay to bring it up in May, because May is typically not the time to do that.
Special circumstance, if we pass it over now, like last year with the fire suppression system at the library, we passed it over in the fall because they weren't ready.
Yep.
And took it up, which would mean we'll work with Zach to make sure the money's put aside, unofficially put aside.
Sure.
I just have one question on that, if I may.
ahead.
What's the escalation cost? Do you think there's any escalation costs if we wait between now and May as far as?
Yeah, I mean, the cost of equipment is going, I'm sure is going to go up, as everything else does over time. I don't know what that percentage would be between now and May.
Well, that's the risk we take. That's the risk we take.
That's the risk we take,
Well,
yes.
yeah,
But it's, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead, Chris.
Using the companies we're using now and the cameras we're using now from Avigilon, the prices, as I've reviewed over the past 5 years, have not gone up substantially that much more. We're looking at maybe a 3 or 4% increase in their costs by May. And that's not going to, you're not going to really see a whole lot of that in the total cost.
And to further address that, Dave, there has been an issue of, I wouldn't quite call it hyperinflation, but runaway inflation on a lot of these capital projects that
right.
we've been burned on like 4 times on in the last few years. So that is a concern that we've discussed a few times. I don't think that that's a reason to rush things through and circumvent the capital subcommittee, which is a function in the bylaws of the town. But that is something I'm concerned about, and in terms of getting bids and whatnot, to the extent bids can be locked in when you eventually go to bid, so that when we go to town meeting, we know that what we're allocating is close to what we're going to have to spend. I think that would be useful.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, is there a motion by somebody?
I'll make a motion to pass over to May.
Okay. Second.
Just one other thought, they're going to need to get authorization from the Water Commissioners to have their portion charged to the enterprise fund, so making sure they're on board with that.
That's
That
why-
could be a source of the funding, so it could be 80% the town and 20% is for whatever's going on there, but there's got to be some kind of approval, because I don't think we can just charge it to them, but they don't authorize it.
So there'll be some communications, I guess, with the water.
That's why you want to push it off, Polly. Give a chance to discuss it, because you can't commit the water commissioners
Correct.
without their approval.
Yep.
I don't know if you can or you can't, but you shouldn't.
I'd prefer not to.
So there's a motion by Dave. Was there a second? Second by Vin. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call. Dave?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Easy enough.
thank you. So that's a unanimous,
That assumes that you're okay with passing it over.
Hey, it's one less project I have to work on.
Is that a yes?
It's a yes.
okay. Next on the list, Chief Nelson. There it is. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome. Did I run you over? I'm sorry.
Took them out.
That was planned.
Mr. Chairman?
Good evening. So for everyone's benefit,
Mark Nelson, Fire Chief.
okay, Chief. Can you give us, I mean, we might as well take these one at a time. You want to start with the largest one, which is the boiler? That's Article 6. Can you just give a 20 or 30-second summary of what we're spending and why we're spending it?
Sure. So the boiler's been on the capital plan for some time. It's $300,000. It is at the Birch Street Fire Station, which was constructed or went into service in 1991. there are older date stamps on the components of the boiler from the 80s, so it's time to replace the boiler.
Okay. Why do I have 400,000 listed here?
And it's the second part of the article.
Rooftop unit for the spruce.
Oh, okay, those are both part of Article 6. Okay, so the second piece?
The second piece is one of the rooftop units, the largest one at the Spruce Street Fire Station, failed more or less this summer. That's for heating and air conditioning, and it's a cost of, actually, we just got the official quote of just shy of $89,000. So we requested $100,000 to go with the other $300,000 in that article.
Okay. Has this been vetted in capital? Is there a recommendation in capital?
Favorable. It's been on the plan for a number of years, except for the IVAC.
The boiler, yes. The HVAC, the rooftop units is part of should be for fall town meeting of 28. So this one is a little bit sooner than what we anticipated.
Because it's not functioning.
It's not functioning efficiently.
And that has been through capital as well.
For 28.
Correct, for 28, but
We didn't expect.
So we're moving it up, but you have looked at it.
Yeah, we didn't expect it to go fudder-nutters.
it's also not the entire project, so there are additional rooftop units that will have to be taken care of in 28.
Okay, so just so my notes are clear, so it's the Birch Street boiler and the Spruce rooftop?
Correct.
Okay.
Could you repeat the totals on that? Because right here, I have a schedule that says this is 400,000 total, but I think the two of those add up to more than that, so I want to just make sure I got it straight.
So probably in your packet, you see a Spruce Street boiler also, and that's in another year for capital, maybe.
It's 300 and 100, basically.
389, right?
Yes. Okay.
Without contingency, 389. With contingency, 400.
Right, we rounded up the boiler also
Yeah.
to 300,000. It's probably 287, I think is what it was, if I remember correctly.
Okay, is there further discussion on this article?
I just have a quick question.
Go ahead, Dave.
Did the rooftop have a technician look at it to say that they recommended to replace it rather than fix it?
Yes, so we've had several repairs over the summer from the town's contractor, E&E, and yet this is their recommendation now. We actually were at the point where we were using a garden hose to cool the fins, during the summer. So we're at the point now, it's not gonna last another season.
But for the record, in 28, we still have high-vac work budgeted for
Correct.
Spruce Street.
Correct.
We're just moving one part of it forward.
Correct.
I'll make a favorable motion.
Okay, motion by Brandt,
Second?
seconded by Carly. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, Dave?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a unanimous favorable on Article 6. Article 7, that's a repave. Summary for that?
This is Phase 2 of paving at the Birch Street Fire Station. Last year, we did Phase 1, which was where the fire engines, the ladder truck, come out onto what we call it the apron. That was repaved. This year, we want to do the small parking lot in front of the station and the side driveway that goes up to the back of the station. This is not the rear parking lot, though. That's another phase. So this was estimated at $30,000.
Okay, I thought I saw a 35 number before. Was that a previous estimate?
Actually, no, it was less than 30.
Or was it? Okay. Is this considered capital? Have you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, you
We went
guys.
through it because there were 3 phases.
Okay.
We approved one for last year, this on this year, and
Okay.
I don't know when the big one
We
is.
actually paid, the first phase we took out of expense budget, so
Right.
we did not use it as capital, but this one we'll need to.
Is there a motion?
Well, what if we don't do it? I mean, is there potholes there now? What's like,
It's,
Capital plan.
yeah, it's pretty much original from 1991, right? It's been sealed, but yes, it's breaking. The transition from Birch Street into the driveway is breaking, so that causes large potholes, refreezing.
because that doesn't have a lot of activity around there, does it? Like, there's not a lot of traffic going back and forth that area.
I don't know what you'd consider a lot of traffic. It gets a lot of use. The trucks access the back often. That's where we fuel up. So
I'll make a motion. It's on the
Okay.
capital plan.
Motion by Carly to approve. Recommend favorable. Second by Vin. Dave?
Yes.
Vin?
Yes.
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a unanimous favorable on Article 7. I think the last one we have for you, Chief, is Article 12, which is a repair.
it's, right. So in all honesty, this is collision damage and at-fault accident by the fire department. It didn't involve any property, any personal property, but it severely damaged the fire engine. It needs to be repaired. So we're estimating $100,000.
Has that been looked at? Has it been gone through capital or no?
This is not.
But it needs to be done.
This was not planned.
Okay.
It's not planned, right? This accident occurred in July, and we've had difficulty in getting quotes, estimates, due to not being able to get parts costs and things like that. So we're finally did get one and realized that we have to, complete an RFP. So that's what we've done. And now this month, probably, it's October 23rd, the RFP, the bids will be due.
So what's the basis for the 100?
We think that based on the estimate, that's what it's going to cost.
So you have an estimate?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
It was 50 when you first thought of it, and then, surprise.
Right,
And we're self-insured, so this is just a cost we have to absorb.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that was my question. Is there another source of funding for this, since we're self-insured? Is this coming out of a self-insured bucket? Do we have a self-insured
We
bucket?
do have a self-insured insured fund for property damage, typically buildings. It could be vehicles if we are going to pay for something and get subrogation through a third party and get reimbursed. That would go back into that.
Would this,
So this, it could be a question. We have free cash available. We have been trying to shore up. I think last year we added money to our self-insurance fund because it has been
I remember.
paying out more
Right.
than it's been going in. So
So if you drew on it, you might have to replenish it, right? So,
Jerry would have a comment on that.
yes.
Yeah, because I was around the creation of, well, not the world, but and at that time, that was not a risk that we were insuring. So when we set up the self-insurance fund, it was to replace the insurances that we had. We didn't carry insurance for this kind of, this was budgeted for, or they would come to town meeting on an April. Typically, the departments at that time carried money in their budgets for repairs in the normal course of accidents that would happen. So this was never part of the self-insurance fund.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
I think the question is, when I think about the engine one, is it out of use right now because of the damage?
Oh, yes.
So what does that mean to you to have engine one be down? Because that's kind of what this is all about, right?
It's
It is-
5,
it's-
right?
Yeah, well, it is 5 just for official records.
Yeah, I noticed the inconsistency.
Sorry about that.
It's 5.
That's okay, it's just, so it's engine 5, it's the newest fire engine. It's a significant loss. It's really the only way I can describe it. I want to get it back as soon as possible.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Vin.
I wonder, Chief, what is the damage? Is it body damage, frame, transmission, engine, what?
Body damage.
Body
We'll
damage?
know more once they start to disassemble it and make sure we don't have frame damage. It's not engine damage, motor.
If this is approved November 1st, how long before Engine 5's back online?
Well, we're going through the bid process, right? So we'll have a sealed bid opening, and then the awarded contractor will,
How many days after we award the bid?
don't know that.
But is it a month? Is it 6 months?
I would anticipate at least a couple months.
Last one was like 90 days, right, Mark?
It takes a while.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
He's on talking twice.
They used to be called Tui Toys, but now we have to come up with a new name.
Okay, so other than asking people to be careful when they're driving, is there anything else? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Vin for favorable,
Favorable.
second by Carly. Dave?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have anything else with you?
I don't think so.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, the next one, I'm not sure who's actually driving the bus, but Paul and company?
Sorry, 25? Yeah.
Yes.
Paul and I.
Okay, so if we could start, just if you guys could identify yourselves?
Sure. Brian Murray, Town Council. Paul Mazzucchelli, Chairman of the Milford Board of Health and member of the Select Board.
Okay, thank you both. If one of you could just give a 30-second summary of what we're trying to accomplish here?
Sure. As I think everyone's aware, right now, there's a great increase of overcrowding and illegal apartments throughout the town. And we're getting probably the most reports through the fire department. As they go to answer calls, they see some serious health and safety violations. We've had a good amount of organization among the town departments in terms of health, building, and also police and fire. However, the primary means, really, that the town has had, probably for the last 20 years, in terms of finding out what is out there in the community in terms of rental properties, is the Article 37 of the town's bylaws, the occupancy bylaw. And that was administered many years through the health department in terms of registering apartments, measuring them, because the square footage of the unit determines how many people can be in that unit pursuant to the state sanitary code. A few things happened over the last few years, least of not, which is the pandemic, and I think the health department, and Paul can speak more to that, I think really got overrun with a lot of other duties, and the inventory of rental units throughout the town is not really where it needs to be for today's numbers. So this article seeks funding to retain a consultant, to update and categorize the inventory of rental units, and put forth suggestions and I think a plan going forward for even better coordination between the health and the building department to really get eyes and ears out in the community as to these kind of illegal units that are there.
Okay, I mean, this makes a lot of sense to me. I guess my question is, I understand the pandemic issue, but it seems to me like it should be a continual process, right? Because I remember we had the Neighborhood Housing Task Force. I was actually thinking about bringing them in later this calendar year, and they were out sort of walking the beat, so to speak, and it seemed like there was an aggressive push to monitor all this, and then it sounds like it kind of just dissipated. I mean, is this being done every year, or is it we did a big push and then it was just sort of ignored while the problems...
Yeah, so the Neighborhood Task Force, really, I mean, that's something that started, oh gosh, back when I was on the board. Yeah. And it was really nothing more than a consolidation of the efforts of the departments that I just mentioned. Your building, which zoning comes under, your health department, your police, and your fire, so that if any one of the departments had notice of a deficiency or a problem, they'd contact the department that was relevant. The health department might see some zoning violations, and vice versa. So that had proceeded for a number of years. This is a separate program, if you will, that is and has been administered by the health department, really to kind of give a roadmap of the units that are out there. And then in terms of how it has been administered, you're right, it is something that's, should be a continuous process, a yearly registration for landlords, and then I'll turn that over to Paul to talk about how that's been administered.
Right now, too, it is a yearly thing. Every year, property owners have to renew their certificate. We divide it into 12 months, so many get sent out each month, and they get returned. Those that aren't returned get sent another letter telling them that they must comply. If not, they'll have to pay an extra filing fee, and most of them do. Those that do not submit, we do then go to the home ourselves, or the health department would go and just to ensure that everything is the way it was when it was measured back in 2007. But again, it is a continuous work in progress. The only thing that we did with that task force years ago was we went to different neighborhoods. We not only looked for overcrowding and illegal conversions, but those that had unkempt properties as well. A lot of rubbish out front, rodent complaints and things like that. To actually go into someone's house, knock on the door and say, we wanted to go check your house. We did not do that all the time. That was done by the consultant back in 2007, and he did that because of the overcrowding conditions. And again, under the state sanitary code, which is under the Board of Health regulations, there is a space and use section that, so many square feet per occupant, and that's how you can determine the maximum occupancy rate. And that's what we did throughout the town. And at the time, there was close to 4,000 apartments or units that we had to go in and check. We did close to that already. But I mean, back then, we did close to maybe 3,800, 3,900, and the other ones we did ourselves. But what we've noticed is that now we have a dramatic increase in the amount of illegal conversions as well as overcrowding. And again, like Attorney Murray said, we're getting them from, of course, when fire departments have to answer a first response call. Neighbors are our biggest inspectors because they're the ones who would see it and call the code enforcement. And what we found most recently was when the health department had distributed those new rubbish containers. Again, we'd go by the assessment records. And if there was a two-family, we gave them, the proper amount of containers for recycling and for rubbish. Then we'd get a call. Hey, we need 2 more containers, or we need 3 more containers. Well, why? You have a two-family. No, I got 2 more apartments in the back. And again, that's how we found out as well.
I guess the question is, can you be doing, random inspections every year? I mean, if you wanted to be cynical, you might say that once somebody has a property cleaned up, if they were doing this in the past, them sending the check to you or the filling out the form doesn't necessarily mean they haven't just gone back to conducting things the way they were conducting.
Exactly, and like that was mentioned to us before at one of our meetings that we had just this past week. And it's almost like a physical impossibility for the amount of staff that we have to be doing that, because that is not only the health departments, but also the building department's only aspect that we have to check. Right. There's a host of other state-mandated responsibilities that we have to do. So again, and it seems to be right now that it's dramatically increasing. As a matter of fact, in the past 2 weeks, we found 11 illegal conversions, as I was mentioning to you fellas today. Just today, we found one on Columbus Ave. A garage with 4 other apartments in it.
Brian, can you increase the fines as a further deterrent on this kind of thing?
I don't think that's really the issue. The fine is up $300, per day right now. So the finding process, particularly with the kind of rents that these places get, it's a much more cumbersome process. That's another thing that I've accelerated in terms of going after people that aren't paying fines. We're filing the application for criminal complaints now in the court. But I think the value that this has is a consultant can come in and reinvigorate or update the inventory that we do have, go out to these places that are not part of the inventory, and this gives us eyes and ears into the unit because the consultant can arrange for going out and taking measurements. Because as Paul said, I think it's 1 person per 150 square feet that's allowed in the unit. So that's part of the entire process. So it goes out, takes the measurements. Well, maybe they see a fire code violation, boom, the notice goes off to the fire department, that type of stuff. So this, I think, is really the baseline to kind of get the coordination and the kind of work that you're talking about, get the information to really help that kind of work happen.
I have one more question, then I'll shut up. What's the number, and where did the number come from? Is it 250?
No.
Was it 225?
I thought it was 225, and that was based on, back in 2007, when we hired a company to do that. I believe the figure was $148,000 then. So we just figured through inflation and things like that, that it would be that. Plus, there's also areas that this person or company may not have to check for the simple reason where you have the apartment complexes. You know, they're more or less controlled and managed a lot better than a regular home. And, you know, no one's going to add another apartment on you know, in back of one of the apartments on Shadowbrook or Countryside or whatever. But so that's something else that I had in mind. But what you're seeing mostly, too, is not only the overcrowding, but the illegal conversion part. And again, they're doing that with no permits. It could be a two-family house that now you have 4 families there. It was plumbed for a two-family. It was wired for a two-family. It's being overly used. A fire department has told us that when they go, they find extension cords running all over the different rooms and different doorways and whatnot. People sleeping in hallways, attics. Again, the one on Columbus Ave that I mentioned, there was a garage, attics, cellars, hallways. The one on Orchard Street that we just found is an accident waiting to happen. And I'll tell you right now, the Board of Health and Building Department worked on that right away. And if that did continue, there's a distinct possibility that someone's going to die. I think that's how dangerous these things are.
And just on the Orchard Street one, just to give you folks a sense of what we're talking about, the photographs that they showed to me, there's so many people in this apartment. Each cabinet in the kitchen has an individual name. Each cabinet has an individual name.
Just to add, just because very...
Right on.
I just want to give other people... Okay, Paul.
Excuse me, Laura, I just want to add one more thing. That particular property is owned by an individual who lives out of town. But what happened, someone from Milford rented the whole 2 units. They rented the whole property. And they're the ones who went out and made it illegal.
Subtenants.
Exactly. So that's what's happening lately,
different
too.
levels.
Yeah.
All different levels.
Carly?
Can I just ask a clarifying question? The 200 or 225, whatever number, you've used the word consultant and company. Are we getting a single person, or are we getting a...
So the idea would be to have enough funds to do an RFP.
Okay.
And the specs would be similar to, I think, what was drawn back in 2005, 2006.
Right.
That company is still available. We're hopeful that it would address the specs, but if not, we'll look at all of them fairly and evaluate them properly. The intent is to only use so much, obviously, that the bid requires. So I think that's what Paul was indicating in terms of coming up with his estimate, we thought.
I just worry a single person still isn't going to be able to traverse the amount of space that you're referring to. So it would be a team of people that
Right,
this would...
Probably. The company back then in 2007 had a whole crew.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brant?
So there's you know, I think your presentation and the description of this makes it clear that there's a problem that I think we all knew about already, but the documentation of it is, I think, is important. So there's no question about the fact that there's a problem. As I listen to the request and what you're trying to do here, this doesn't feel like a capital issue to me, because you've got 4,000 units plus the undocumented ones and these conversions and that you're describing. So the number is considerably bigger than the 4,000. And you're describing that all these departments are already fully occupied with their day jobs and not able to
Concentrate just
This
on
doesn't feel
one.
like a one-time problem. I have this sneaking suspicion this is an annual expense that's going to be going on for a lot of years. And I might be alone in this, but I think when we're approving capital things, we're often trying to think, wait, is this the beginning of something, or is this a project? Like, are we fixing a bridge for this amount of money? Are we buying something for this amount of money? I suspect that this is the beginning of a recurring ask, because for $225,000, you're not getting through 5,000 units. Like, there's just no chance, right?
Well, so it's not capital in the sense this is not a physical request for what you would consider their physical asset. This is a request for consultant services to basically reestablish the Article 37 inventory and process. So back when it was done 20 years ago, this was how it was done. The consultant came on, but then it was only a year or 2 years where once he got the inventory put in place, and then the department took over.
And then we took over, right.
So it's really a request for an RFP to go out and get consultant services to really kind of reestablish the inventory of units, and I think provide recommendations in terms of administering it with improved software, improved communications, so that health, building, police, fire can all integrate to find this out.
So that helps, but am I correct to interpret that as this recommendation would likely lead to more expenses that we should be prepared for? So if we say yes to this, there's probably more expenses coming. This is step one of some undefined steps. Just feels
I mean,
likely.
I'm
not unsupportive of that. I just want to be clear about it.
Well, in some respects, we don't know what we don't know. I mean, I think there's a general feeling out there of the overcrowding. We do have some tangible information. How far it permeates, how extensive it is, that's what we really need to pin down and get the kind of the whole board of information.
Thank you.
Al, and then Ben.
I'm going to agree and disagree with you. I agree that what you said was profound, that this is not a one-time. I think what I'd like to see is a plan that says initially you're going to get a bolus of energy, a team come in and do it, but then next year or the year after, what would it take to maintain it?
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure that we're going to have a consultant every year.
No.
Then it may be better to have our own person.
Exactly. And Albert, that's what we're going to be getting at. Because once we get the inventory and we actually know how severe this monster is, what we'd like to do then is get someone that is just there, that will be just focusing on this particular problem. Again, for the Board of Health to do it and for the building department to do it, you've got a host of other state-mandated responsibilities that we must do every day. So to have somebody just focus on this entirely would definitely help.
Yeah, I think if we started with a plan that says this is the initial energy, effort, money that's going to cost to get it identified, but also ask them for the next year, because you're not going to do this all in 1 year and stop. Because what you're describing is frightening.
Right.
We are putting people's lives at risk. When you say you have 4 apartments in a garage, that to me is 4 kitchens. Okay, so 4 kitchens pulling on wires that were set up for one. It's just a fire waiting to happen.
Sure it is.
So I'd love to see this go through, but also understand next year or the year after, whatever they think, what would it cost to maintain it? And I'm not trying to disparage the health department. I don't think you got the bandwidth.
No, we don't.
And that's really kind of the goal of the RFP. The goal of the RFP is going to be to come in, inventory what we now have, set up a program going forward, and then that'll provide the information that's needed in terms of additional staff, whether it's health, building, or a combination of both.
And that'll be their main focus.
Okay, Ben and then Dave.
Yes. Brian, Paul, what you identified is absolutely right on target, because I know some landlords, and they lease correctly in accordance with the law to a husband and wife and 2 kids. But during the night, they get an abundance of half a dozen or more people coming in, and they're gone by morning. So when the landlord comes in and looks at the trash, they say, well, wait a minute, there's something wrong here, like you mentioned earlier, Paul. So that is a telltale sign. And what you're trying to do now is great. I like it. We identify the problem further, but eventually, in the end, what sort of enforcement are we going to get out of this? Because we can't let it go on like this, obviously.
Well, right now, the enforcement is too. Our building commissioner puts a cease and desist order on them, gives them so much time to get the tenants out of there, and then discontinues the use of that property as an illegal apartment or an illegal room or whatever. Some of the other things that we're thinking of, too, is, not only fines and whatnot, but You take your home insurance. Your home insurer has insured your property for a specific description of that property. Now, if we let that insurance company know that that's not a two-family house you're insuring, it's a four-family with 2 illegal apartments, they're going to be in trouble. Same thing, too. You could bet your dollars to donuts those occupants are not paying that landlord with the check that he's reporting to his accountant during tax time. We can inform the IRS that keep an eye on this individual. It's
like I mentioned,
the same thing with mortgages. You get a mortgage for a certain property, and for a certain description of the property, they can probably, institute their acceleration clause on that.
But that is for landlords that are knowing what's going on. What about
Exactly.
landlords that don't know what's going on? They just see telltale signs.
There's the human side.
The problem is with the tenants, not with the landlord.
Right, then there's that human side to every regulation in law. Then we'll give that landlord a chance to make these corrections.
Dave, did you have a question?
Mr. Chair?
Oh,
I had a question.
Just let me-
I've had my hand up for a while.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lauren. Yeah.
Probably the same question.
Well, I wanted to just follow up with what Paul was saying, because that's the first thing that came to my mind. I know that we don't have the resources, but the deep pocket here would be banks that hold mortgages and insurance companies that hold homeowners insurance. And, rather than walking in and seeing a tenant violation and maybe you see a fire code violation, you tell the fire department, I would contact the owner, find out who their mortgage, you don't even have to contact the owner, you could find it with independent, but get to the deep pocket, because no bank is going to want to, no insurance company is going to want to insure a house with all these violations. And, the mortgage company is going to want to know that too, because it's going to lower their value. So that would be the way to recoup money or to get a long-term benefit without an annual cost, in my mind.
Exactly, and that's what that other individual would do, not only focus on correction of these conditions, but going forward with these other things like myself and Lauren just said, because the main force that's driving all this is financial. Sure. So if you get rid of that financial aspect, then you're going to correct the problem.
I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
So, first of all, these pictures are pretty telling. And I think there's like 8 lawyers in this room, so this could help with this answer. How does this work in a legality-wise? Do you have to know there's a problem first to go to the housing unit? Like, you can't just show up and say, hey, we're coming in, can you? And just see if there's a problem.
For inspections?
Yeah.
Well, they can, and if you're voluntarily allowed in, you can go in and inspect. If not, then you'd have to petition the court for an administrative search warrant to go into the property.
So when the consultant, I'm sorry, but so when the consultant's going to go, like you have a list of, based on a tax roll, you have houses you're going to go, multifamilies you're going to go check, but they can't go in unless they have permission to go in, is that correct?
They can go in if they have permission to do the measurements.
That's right.
Like that's what
Absolutely.
happened last
And then they see, then they can.
Jerry Moody wanted
Yeah,
to...
just if I can, what made this thing work so well back in 2007 is a consultant, like we're talking about, is able to get in there and see the problems. And not just, they're obviously going to assess it under the sanitary code. That's the basis for our having a right to do that. But when they see all of the illegal, they report it. We took a slew of them to court very successfully, got injunctions, shut them down, which had an impact across the town, and I think it made things better. So there'll be a high degree of that probably here too, that we'll have to go to court. Land court, where Brian's been very successful lately, and basically shut these things down. And that works very, very well, once we have eyes in there to see what the problem is.
So to piggyback off of Brant's comment, when those are the additional costs that we probably should prepare for, because if we're obviously paying for all those court fees, right?
Well, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
But Jerry, don't we get reimbursed for those court?
No.
What I found out, since I came to the municipal end, there are no fees in the housing court for municipalities.
That's right.
So in the private sector, you're right, I paid fees left and right. So we've had very good success, as Jerry indicated, in the housing court. So Vinnie, to your point, which is really kind of like the second step, the enforcement mechanism, that's not what this is. This is simply to get a consultant to start the inventory
I
process
understand that,
and
Brian.
get the information, which would then lead to the area that you're talking about. And I know a lot of things have been talked about, but make no mistake about it. The primary enforcement means are going to be civil litigation and fines. And that's going to be the most immediate and the most effective. The housing court is very, very sensitive. I think very, very sympathetic to the plights of municipalities, and that's where I would continue to drive it.
What you're saying is if we go to court and sue you, all that expense is borne by us? We don't get any of it back?
When the town goes, like the injunctions that we got against the illegal sports courts, and we've gotten 4 of them, there's no cost to the town. Do you understand what I'm saying?
We don't have...
I'm myself, Jerry, we're on staff.
So you're doing the...
We do it all.
We do the work.
Okay, I thought we used
don't
the
even,
outside.
what I was telling you, the town doesn't even have to pay a filing fee.
And you did mention before that there are daily fines that can be imposed on these people.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's not that they're getting out free.
No.
Yeah.
No, and that's a separate action in the district court to apply for criminal complaints. But if there's not compliance with the injunctions in the housing court, then you've got contempt proceedings, and that can result in the fines against the landowner.
Can I make a motion, please?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to
accept.
To accept.
To accept. Is there a second? Second by Vinnie. Okay, Dave.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
Chuck.
Yes.
Looks like we lost Mike, Leanne, so that's a unanimous vote with Mike having departed. I don't know if that's a temporary or permanent departure. I think we're good.
Thank you, folks.
guys.
Thank you very much.
So I'm sorry, was that 225? Is that what we, 225? Okay.
Yes.
Andy, you may want to tell people that we're accepting, not voting favorable until we know what the total is. That's what we've done over the past years, is at the very end, we add it all up, make sure we can pay for it.
Okay, to Al's point, we're accepting favorable recommendations, but these are all, I guess we would use the word interim in the legal world, that it's a temporary acceptance until we have accepted everything and we understand how all the numbers fall together. Okay, thank you. Looking at Harold, it just occurred to me that I also had an invitation to speak on my list. Harold made some written submissions. I just wanted to make sure I covered that on the agenda. No one else? Okay. Rick and Liz.
Which number are we on, do you know?
I think there's a bunch of them.
Which one are we starting?
So Article 29 first, because that's the only one Liz will be involved with. So she doesn't have to stay.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, can you folks identify who you are?
Lonnie, I'm the town administrator.
Elizabeth Minini, town engineer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who would like to give the 30-second summary on Article
Real quick,
29?
and she can really do the questions. This is, the sum of money being asked for is $90,000. It is to hire a consultant relative to engineering costs, consulting costs, legal expenses. We have a cleanup situation. It's an environmental hazard on property at Birch Street, the fire station site. Years ago, they used to do the training exercises there. Unfortunately, that foam was used, and now we have an issue that Liz can explain much better than me.
Okay, and where does the 90,000 come from?
So there were, we were notified of the PFAS contamination in February of 2023, and then it became, they filed for, at the 40B project, and then, I don't remember the exact date, but they filed in February 2024 saying that it was our responsibility.
So this is an adjacent landowner complaining about contamination on the fire department site.
Contamination that they're saying originated from the
It's
fire
on their
department.
site that they're saying originated from
on their
us.
site.
We're the cause of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the past, when you've had environmental issues come up, I'd like to start doing this in the future. There's always been a little confusion about, well, what are the state contamination levels and the federal contamination levels? Are we over or under? But it sounds like there's no dispute here that this is contamination that needs to be addressed. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
And did we get a letter from the state or the feds on this?
Yes, so the 90,000 is made up of two different pieces. Once we were notified that we were responsible for the contamination, as far as DP was concerned, we had 60 days to produce produce a report. And so we actually already hired Haley and Aldrich to complete that report on our behalf, which needed to be done within the 60 days. In addition, now that we've done that report, we have 1 year to, most likely what we'll be filing is a tier classification. So they have a year, or we have a year to gather the evidence that we need to be able to classify the site.
So we got a letter from the state, and it essentially says what?
It says that the project for the 40B, they, during their due diligence, found contamination. Mm-hmm. So they filed with DEP, and they had to do certain not cleanup activities, but some cleanup, some monitoring to make sure that they weren't making the contamination worse while they were doing their construction. Once they got to a point where they had enough information and they filed with DEP saying, we think this came from the burn building, basically, right? And then DEP took a couple of months, and then they sent a letter to us saying, we agree, it is from your burn building. So we can still fight that at some point, but we need to collect more information.
So is this a two-step process where right now you conduct a study to determine the extent of the contamination and what our obligation would be?
So yes, it's more than a two-step. I'm hopeful that this is probably like 3 steps, maybe. There's phase 1 through 5 that through the MCP program that for cleanup of sites. We're looking, this is to complete the first phase, which is the initial site assessment, which is also an assessment of the contamination. We're probably going to have to do a phase 2, which is a more detailed site assessment. And that would if we do have to do that, we'll be coming back.
This is for phase 1.
And yeah, this is for phase 1. We would be coming back next year for money for phase 2.
Okay.
I remember Milford Pond, the same thing. We've been down this road. It's not quite that extensive.
It's not.
Nowhere near that.
It's nowhere near.
I think I heard Lauren.
Milford Pond.
Was that you, Lauren?
Yeah, I had a question. I'm just wondering, do you have any idea if this contamination is limited to the property, the ground, or is it groundwater potential?
My question.
It's actually from. So we don't actually have any we don't have any testing or results for the Birch Street property yet, because we haven't started doing any of the testing, or the 40B could only do their testing on their property. On their property, it is entirely within groundwater. It is not within the soils. And that's pretty.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, and that's pretty common with the PFAS.
You're the environmental science guy. Did you have a question? Go ahead, Finn.
Is the property behind there, is that Avalon Apartments?
Yes.
So they're going to be, how many apartment units do we know? I'm assuming also they're going to be hooked up to town water.
Yes. So that's one of the things, like when they were doing the construction and they had both that project, and we had to check to make sure there weren't any wells within a certain distance to make sure, but yeah, they couldn't put in like an irrigation well because it could potentially be contaminated. But we do know enough so far that it seems like the groundwater, the contamination is
They must have put in a test well.
They put in several. So the groundwater flow is from the burn building towards Birch Street.
Yes, and that's
So-
chemicals used by the firemen in their training.
Correct. So it's not migrating towards the apartment buildings to the best of what we can tell right now.
Andy?
Yes, Al?
I think you've given a concise explanation. We have to assume the worst. PFAs and PFOAs, that foam was used universally for fire training, universally for fire suppression. And it does tend to wash right through. I mean, I think of PFAs as DDT for humans. You know, when you look back when we were kids, DDT and DDE were the most effective insect-killing chemicals we knew. Why? Because they didn't break down. They're so nonpolar.
Right.
They just get trapped in the fat layer and eventually overwhelm the organism. That's what PFAs are. So it's not going to get trapped in the soil for a long time, from what I've read, and I was involved in developing methods for detection. It's going to run into the groundwater, which unfortunately is not a good thing for us.
So and this is one of the reasons that we trigger, so the fire department used a relatively small amount of this foam. And, you know, we may find much higher levels on the fire department property, but the Zone 2 for the Bellingham water supply comes up and just kind of grabs enough of where this contamination is right now that the levels that we're allowed to have are significantly reduced. And in the Zone 2 is the only place where we exceed the levels right now. So there's, you know,
we've got to keep in our minds, for those who remember Benjamin Moore, it was this big, and then this big, then this big, and it just kept coming back and back. My gut feeling says this is another one.
100%.
So this is, the difference, I will say, is that it's very unlikely that this particular type of contamination will need to be cleaned up, right? And the cleanup part is where is the big money. More likely than not, this is going to be, you know, we may have to do, I won't say that we're not going to do any cleanup, but more likely than not, it's going to be more of a monitoring situation. So, yeah, could it end up to be something expensive? Sure. But that's not where, that's based on what we know right now, that's not what we think.
Liz, with all due respect, could it be it's $90,000 to test the tip of the iceberg? It's going to be expensive.
Yeah, so I'm not expecting this, and Haley and Aldrich has said it as well. They do not believe this to be another Benjamin Moore.
Good.
It's not optional either way, right?
No,
It's definitely,
I mean, it's
no.
going to be more expensive, we all know that.
Because this is in the groundwater, the longer we wait to figure it out, the further it goes and the bigger problem it becomes. So definitely, even if it wasn't mandated, we would want to get this done as quickly as possible.
Are those apartments built?
Yeah.
They're built. Are people living there now?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we live there, okay. So what more liability do we have out there then?
There's no liability with the apartments.
They're on town water.
What's that?
They're on town water, and this town water comes
There's
from...
no damage for them that we...
Yeah, there's no
Damages.
Yeah. The biggest liability for us would be if it actually reached the Bellingham water supply.
And that's quite a distance off, isn't it?
It is.
Because a lot of their water comes from Beaver Pond, which is on the other side of Bear Hill.
Yeah, the Zone 2s aren't, I wouldn't say they're a worst-case scenario limit of where things, and we're right on the limit, so it's certainly not probable, but it's certainly possible.
Motion.
Yeah.
Al makes a motion for favorable, second by Vin. Dave?
Yes.
Al?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a unanimous recommended favorable. Thank you, Liz. Okay, let's take an easy one. ADA improvement,
Yes, this is
it's Article 1.
an article that you have seen before. It's $150,000. It's divided amongst, say, general government, school, and parks. Some years ago, we received a grant. We had an ADA plan completed. It identified each and every building and each and every ADA issue or need that we have. We've been trying to tackle them each year. Parks, I know, has been very good in using the money, as has the schools. We are going to hopefully do a few projects. In addition, I've just finished one up at the police station, which was a walkway and a railing. We're looking at probably redoing the bathrooms here to make them more ADA compliant. We're looking at many, many things. If you look at the plan, if anybody ever wants to see it, you can see it's a very detailed.
Well, you and I had talked before, at some point, it might be nice if you could give us what has been done to date.
Yeah.
What have we funded and what have we done with it, right?
Sure.
That would be helpful.
We'll give you the plan, put up if you'd like to, so people can see it.
Al?
I think this is the one where we said we're going to push our burden on you and give you $150,000 a year, and you're going to fight the good fight as to who gets it each year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of projects that, if I have extra money, that there's a nice project
This
we
will
might
just
want to
go
do with the
on.
library, so I'm going to use the money.
Year after year, we've been doing 150, we'll just continue doing 150.
Yeah, at some point, maybe we can back off, but I don't think we're at that point yet. And again, if you look at the plan, it's pretty extensive. I mean, Harold could attest to that. He's still back there?
Yeah,
He is
it's,
still back there.
In fact, last year, I don't even know if I forwarded, we actually got a letter from the Mass Office on Disability commending the town of Milford in its regular completion of items within the ADA transition plan. And I don't know if my version of the transition plan is up to date, but I do keep up with what each of the departments are
But
doing.
it sounds like, Harold, our goal was to show continuous improvement.
Correct. And I think we have
Take the
done.
pressure off of spending $500,000 or $1 million immediately.
That's what they're looking for, you know, are you proceeding to attack certain items on that plan, and are you without lapse? In other words, we're not going to skip a year, for example, at least not right now.
Dave, did you have a question?
I do have a question. Is there any synergies between the ADA plan and the 20-year comprehensive plan? Because it seems to me they're like sisters. Like, could they work together on this or no?
I can certainly ask, I'm on that committee, as is.
It seems like it's you wouldn't.
I'm not sure, but.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to make up have a different decision about this ask for that plan. 'Cause
No,
that
I'm
plan's
just saying
too
that,
early.
like,
Down the
could it-
road, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, an ADA and comprehensive plan study, I think.
Did you have something else you wanted to
Yes, I
add?
just wanted to add, the town of Milford stands in very good stead with the Mass Office on Disability because of our continued effort in this area. This year it was supposed to happen, but it'll happen next year's in the governor's budget for over $1 million for, to fund these sorts of things for which Milford can apply for funding. And, there's all indications that because that we've kept up with it, have shown good
Oh, that would be good.
success. And
Yeah, we do
I
continue to
stay right
look
on
for grants.
contact with them.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Dave, second from Carly. Okay, Dave. Yes.
Yes.
Joyce, Carly.
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
Chuck.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a unanimous recommended favorable on one. I've got you for the Parks Highway collective bargaining.
Yeah, Article 15, obviously that collective bargaining agreement has been resolved and settled. I believe the amount for that article is $58,928.
That's a fixed amount for the retro, so to speak.
Correct,
to
that's
bring
exactly
the
Motion accept.
Motion by Dave, second by Carly. Roll call, Dave?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a unanimous recommended favorable on 15. You got two items here, Rick.
16?
Yes, 16.
Yeah. 16.
Go ahead.
We had a project that we did that is now complete, which was installing flooring at the Milford Police Station. It's one of those projects that actually bid out very well. We have $43,625 remaining with the project completed. What I'm asking to do is to repurpose that money. I didn't include, when we went out to the original bid, the stair treads on each side of the building. To me, it would make sense to repurpose that money. The quote I have now is within the $43,625. So I'd like to get no new money, but I'd be repurposing that money. I still would have to go out and get 3 quotes, so hopefully I'm going to do a little better. One of the quotes I have is from a company we've used before, doing that project, for example. So I'm pretty confident that that money will suffice and still probably be a little left over, I hope.
I mean, my only general comment is, it's kind of the same issue I had with Chris George, is if we have money left over, shouldn't the money be technically, okay, it's back in the kitty, and then you go through the capital process with the capital
Yes,
subcommittee?
but I'd hate to have to wait 6 months and try to get another quote. I'd like to go out to bid now.
Technically, the money is going back in the kitty. What he's doing
Just repurpose.
is, forget repurpose. You're mixing source of funding with the article.
However you want to phrase it, yep.
Okay, I'm okay with the fact that we have 43,000 back in the kitty. Now you're asking for an article to fund 43,000 of whatever stair treatments.
Oh, stair treads, for example, like the treads we have here. Yeah.
So we've talked about doing the stairs in the police department before. We just didn't put it in the bid. So this, to me, is not a repurpose of money. It's an article talking about we should do the stair treads, and then saying source of funding is an old article.
Correct.
I wouldn't want to mix two of them, because then you get what Andy's saying, it looks confusing.
What I
I'm finding it confusing, but okay.
What I don't want to have happen, Rick, is, as I mentioned to Chris, I don't want the October Finance Committee meetings to become a substitute for the capital subcommittee.
Understood. I understand that. This is not, we've done this before. This is not unique. 2 town meetings, at least since I've been here in 11 and a half, 12 years. Yep.
So it wasn't clear from what you said, Al, is this something that was sort of discussed?
We discussed doing the police floors.
Correct.
This was not included in the police floor.
Correct.
So in my mind, you can't take the money directly. You have to go to town meeting, which is what this is doing, saying we'd like to do the treads.
Correct.
Because we didn't do it as part of the police floors. And the source of funding is an old article.
Correct.
And candidly, I don't care if we take it out of free cash and let the article fall to free cash in May.
Seems to me, yeah. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, don't confuse them.
Six one way, half a dozen the other.
Dave?
Just an overall comment, just on, it's hard, at least for me, to like make a decision without seeing it. So, I mean, when we have these capital projects coming in and asking for things like the driveway in front of the fire station and the treads, it'd be nice to have pictures to see what we're looking at, to see how deteriorating it is.
Get
to
those
see,
to you, that's easy.
I mean, to see what the need is. It's just hard to say, what is the need of this without
fair.
seeing it.
That's fair.
So that's just my
Now,
overall comment.
We should have access to those, because when they come before us, we turn them over to Paul to put in the...
Is there pictures?
Most of them do have
Are there
pictures.
pictures? I haven't seen the pictures.
I've not seen pictures of this.
I'm not sure you have
This one
pictures
itself.
of that. Yeah,
That's
but I
their
can
tread.
certainly can get you those, and you can.
Yeah, it just
Sure,
makes it
absolutely.
easy to see what the
I
need
can also
is.
put
But I
the
think
quote up there
what
for
you're
you, too.
bringing up,
Yep.
if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Is that in the future, I'll work with Paul to put a reference in there. So when the capital subcommittee goes through a proposed article, we'll have on there details available at this point.
Sure.
And we'll ask for pictures.
Okay, that's it.
No, that's legit.
Do the treads lead to the floor?
Hopefully the treads are on the floor.
I believe so, but I'll get you pictures.
If they're sitting there freestanding, I think you got to
No, but then we got,
If you fix all
got
the
to
floors and
jump
you didn't
down.
fix the treads, it seems like you should connect the dots. but-
The project, well,
Okay. What's the
I'll make a
pleasure?
motion.
Okay, what's the motion, Vin? Favorable motion by Vin. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lauren. Roll call, David.
I'm going to be a no to your point about going to the capital committee first.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Lauren.
Yep.
Chuck.
Yes.
So that's 7-1 favorable. So that's a recommended favorable. In the future, Rick, do what you can to try to
Sure.
get this through our process.
request, absolutely.
7-1 accepted.
Accepted, not favorable.
Favorable, we don't know if we have enough money to fund all these articles.
It's interim favorable, Al.
Like that.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Everything we do is subject to a second look, just for the record. All right, since Al distracted me, what article was that? That was 16.
That was 16.
All right. We've got you for 27?
Correct. I think that's the last one for the select board anyway. So Article 27 is looking to transfer a certain sum, which is $102,328 from line item 174-5110, that's the town planner budget, basically, to 122-5110, that's the select board budget. The FinCom, you might remember, we funded a position which was an economic development / assistant town administrator. I'll be the first to admit, it just was too difficult to find someone with that dual set of skill set. We did have someone here very briefly. It did not work out. In my discussions with the select board, given the size of the town that we are now, the size of the budget that we have, we're looking to implement an assistant town administrator position. It's already on Article 2. It's been there for many years. It just has never been filled. So we're looking to take that sum of money to put it into 122 and then post for an assistant town administrator position. I've done some comparisons of other towns. Towns our size have both a town administrator and an assistant town administrator. Smaller towns do split it. You know, they'll go assistant town administrator, HR person, but much smaller towns because they can't obviously handle both positions. So that's what this request is for.
And that economic development position just
No,
that goes away?
That goes away.
Okay.
Yeah, I was maybe reaching a little, but thought we could.
I'm
do it.
confused though, Rick. $102,000. Is that an annual number, or is that?
No, that's not. That's just now.
6 months?
I don't know if it's going to be 6 months, but I'm just going to transfer it into that budget for
Okay,
now.
you're not-
We will rebudget it, obviously, come January or whenever we start the budget.
Well, no, my concern was $102,000.
No.
You got 7 months left in the year. That's a very expensive.
I might apply for it.
You have a line at the door.
Less work and
So this is already,
It's already on allocated.
it's already rated.
It's been there for years.
You're going to pay according to the rating,
Absolutely.
not $102,000 for 6 months.
And to the, obviously, the quality of the candidate that we may fill it with, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. It's a good, fair point.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion by Dave to accept. Second by Brant.
Yes.
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 Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Unanimous vote to accept pending further consideration. That was Article
27.
27. Now, before you take off, Rick, there's a few others down below. Do I need to bring the personnel board in on these, or are you familiar with these?
Well, I can probably do, let's see.
I see 14, I see 3.
Let's see what 3 is. Let me just take a quick. Yeah, 3, as I understand it, we have now, typically in years past, we had basically part-time and full-time, and they were pretty definitive. We have now very different hours for many people. We've got 40-hour people, we've got 35-hour people, we've got 19-hour people, we've got 27-hour people. So we don't have that uniformity we used to have. So this will kind of deal with vacation pay. So we will prorate so that the 19-hour person is getting treated the same, prorating as the 27-hour person, as the 35-hour person. Again, I don't have a lot of involvement with these, but that's what Article 3 is doing.
Go ahead, Al.
Motion to refer to sponsor.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to refer to sponsor in a second. I mean, it's technically a little bit of a monetary issue to the extent we're bleeding out some vacation time that could affect available resources to otherwise conduct business, but I hear the point. Okay, so there's a motion by Al to refer to sponsor and a second by Brandt. Any discussion? No? Okay. Dave?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's Article 14 that we're referring to sponsor.
I think it's 3, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, am I-
Three.
am I confusing 3 and 14? Okay.
14, same thing.
13 and 14 a person.
So, hold on. The sponsor is 3. So 14,
Same thing.
well, I want to understand 14 a little bit. Are we shortening the time for vacation accruals, Rick?
My understanding is yes.
Okay, do you know why we're doing that?
Personnel board met, had a meeting and hearing, and determined that's what we should do. I don't, again, I wasn't at that hearing, so I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at the article, I've talked with them briefly, but yes, the answer to that is yes.
Okay, so, I mean, I guess my comment
10 years, my understanding of 10 years, someone will now get 5 weeks where I believe they had 4 weeks.
Did you want to make a comment?
As the former chairman of the Personnel Board, we would never take up this kind of article in the October meeting. Usually in the May meeting, there's a whole group of articles having to modify personnel bylaws, for which a whole package would be put together so people could understand it in totality, if there's no urgency to do this tonight.
Okay. Comments, discussion, motion?
I'll make a motion to pass it over.
Again, in due fairness, don't rely on me. Let's have the personnel board come in.
What's that argument, though?
Just, no offense, because it was done that way in the past, it makes no sense to me. So that's what we're going to do here. I got a problem with that.
Kristen.
Yeah.
She's, Brian Long. Brian Long is the chair.
I think this falls under, we said, if we get a favorable or an accepted motion, we don't have to bring the people in. If we don't, then they become...
Or refer to sponsor, like we just
Yeah, I
did.
think they at least deserve an opportunity here.
No,
That's my point, since we can't say yes.
So who should we be inviting, Brian or
You could
Kristen?
bring in Brian Long, who's the chair, and obviously Kristen could possibly help also, yeah. If you're going to do that, I'd recommend you do 13, too. That's okay. That's to add 2 positions.
And that's under
Pretty
their,
straightforward, but...
that's under their
that's up
wing
to
as
you,
well?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's an addition. That's
Yeah.
additional people.
Correct.
Definitely consider bringing them in, because
That's what I'm saying, I would
You just say the
recommend
same
you
people.
bring them in.
So that's,
One is because we now have a treasurer-collector.
that's
So
13 and
The other
14.
position is dealing with highway and Board of Health, so
13 and 14.
I would recommend you bring them in and discuss both of them, yeah.
Okay, is there anything else you can help us with, Rick?
guess the only one, if you really want me to try, is there's a zoning bylaw amendment, Article 4, I believe it is.
Is that the accessory dwelling unit
Yeah,
issue?
I don't know if you're...
Yeah, I suspect this is going to end up being a refer to sponsor, but you want to just give us a quick summary on that?
Yeah, the planning board, well, the state passed legislation called the Affordable Homes Act, and basically requires municipalities to provide for what they call ADUs, or accessory dwelling units, as a matter of right in certain residential zoning districts. The amendment proposed will bring the town into compliance with the new legislation, and it then specifies the districts where they're allowed, RA, RB, RCRD, and OR residential zoning districts. And then it also establishes standards for their review. And so this is going to bring us in compliance with that legislation.
Anyone? Comments, questions? Motion?
Does that mean building other housing units or making
As
existing
I
housing?
understand it, you can build, again, assuming you meet all other zoning requirements, a structure that I believe is 900 square feet or 1/2 the total square feet of your existing dwelling
You can build a
on your
mini-
property.
You can build a mini
And
house.
you'll see it, there are companies now that are actually, I've seen, doing this.
That shows tiny house.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but...
But I'm just saying, those kind of houses are coming
That's what
to
they're,
reality.
yeah.
And is this going to be,
Husband
So
space,
this
that's
is
what it's
on
going to be called.
This is on a lot that is a single-family house.
Right.
So if you read the little subnotes, like 319.2, that mentions, like, there was some of that detail will answer some of those questions.
Yeah,
so this will be permanent housing versus temporary, yeah?
correct. As I understand it, yes.
You build a building, it's kind of permanent.
Well, no, I don't know, I'm talking about the families.
No, I think the permanency of it, it's meant to accommodate like in-law apartments and things, and it's only meant to be used for like family members.
There's no restrictions. It could be,
It's your,
I could be...
it's your typical
I could be
in-law,
renting
but
it.
you don't have to be limited.
Yeah, oh, yeah. As I understand it. I think
That's
you
how
can...
Mass state law is.
Yeah.
That's the law.
Again, that's legislation that was passed by the governor, about both houses, and it's signed by the governor.
I'm sorry to trouble you. I suggest you refer to sponsor and ask the planning board to come in, because as I understand it, and I've had discussions with people from Boston on this, the actual regulations to be put out by the state have yet to be completed. If we were to pass these regulations at this time, they may not be in concert with the regulations that the state puts out in 2025.
Okay, I think that's probably above our pay grade for purposes of finance
Not getting
committee.
paid anything.
No, I agree with Harold, it's refer to sponsor.
I agree, but I need a motion.
You got me.
Carly, thank you. Refer to sponsor.
Second,
Second by Lauren. David.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Lauren.
yes.
Chuck.
Yes.
Okay, that's a unanimous refer to sponsor. The liquor license, Rick, that's kind of select board-ish, isn't it?
Yeah, but that will be a...
That's just someone requesting.
Someone's requesting special legislation to add an additional liquor
But
license.
again, isn't that a refer to sponsor from us?
Again, I'm not going to tell you.
Makes sense to me.
Wait, is it, who is the sponsor? The sponsor is not the board of selectmen.
It is not.
No.
Prospect Heights, number 3 or whatever.
LLC.
So typically, you don't refer to, you refer to sponsor if it was one of the town departments, like the planning board who's already made a review. So you wouldn't, let's say, I want to have 10 liquor licenses, you just refer to whatever my thing is. That's almost giving a tacit approval to someone to do something. So you could take a look at it and see if you want to approve it or not. But the sponsor is not.
Have we ever gotten involved in liquor license?
Yeah, we refer to sponsor.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's suggesting something other than that, but I don't see how we would want to delve into that.
No.
Yeah. Okay, I need a motion.
The motion to refer to sponsor.
By Lauren. Second, please.
I'll second.
It's like pulling teeth with you guys tonight.
I don't want to keep on doing it. I'm like, I want
Dave.
to give someone else a chance.
Dave.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's...
It's a new year. Your quota's replenished.
I don't know, it's like.
All right, Rick, we can let you go if you want.
I don't know that there's much else I can really...
No, there's a few we can go over, though.
Stay for the fun.
Mr. Chairman, like, is the, are we doing like the Parks Department and the library? Are they people coming in for that?
I was going to bring that up on the library.
Thank you, have a good
All
day.
right, thanks, Rick. All right, hold on. One thing at a time. Let's do a couple more easy ones. So far, we've gotten through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 out of the 30. Let's see if we can knock out a few more. The school van.
School van is one of 8 vans that they purchased, if we all remember. But basically, it's a money-saving mechanism for transporting special needs kids around. They got 8 of them. We can count on 1 or 2 every year for the next so many years.
Capital has
They're in the
passed on it?
plan.
Okay.
We've agreed to it.
I just want to see the money savings, though. I've been hearing stories that it's not really, the transportation is not, the savings that we thought would happen is not happening. So I just like to get some more information on it.
Well, we'll bring it up with Mr. Nicholson
Yeah.
to get it right.
If you read the...
Aren't you on the school subcommittee?
That's what I'm saying. It's that too. It's just like the,
Oh, you're on it.
yeah.
So look into it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm looking into it.
How would you see the savings, though? It's kind of cost avoidance, no?
Transportation's over. I mean, it is.
No, Carly. If you hire somebody, a Mark's Transportation or somebody, they're going to charge you X dollars. You compare that against paying a stipend to a teacher to drive the van, and it's yes or no, whether you save money.
So it's not the cost of the van, it's
Not
you're asking for the cost differential on the driver.
I'm asking, right, because the argument was back, the argument back then when they got all the vans was this is going to be a cost savings to the town, and so far they haven't quantified what that tax savings is and to budget savings, and I've been hearing that it's the inverse. So I just like to know, if we're buying another van, what's the cost benefit?
So you're saying a cost should come off the books with a third-party vendor when we put this on, and this should be cheaper?
Yeah. So we should get a bid or an estimate to say it costs $100 a year to transport these kids to this school.
But we know this is $60,000 for a van plus a stipend to driver. Yeah.
So we'll look forward,
Cycle cost of the van itself.
So we'll look forward to your study, and you'll get back to us on this?
No, I just brought it up. But
Can't wait to hear next time from you, David.
That's why you don't get paid to be.
It's something to look into. I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
With Mr. Nicholson, who's my
motion.
He had to pick someone up, that's why he had to leave early.
Motion favorable.
Motion favorable to accept?
To accept.
To accept from Al.
Wow.
You got me
Second.
Second by Lawrence. Dave?
No.
No.
I say no.
I say yes.
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 Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 6-2. The vote is favorable on Article 26, the school
Don't they
van.
have to come in through, wait, they came to the capital committee, right?
It came to capital.
What was, okay.
We should really try not to
Capital
do...
committee knows.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's a serious issue, I would question redoing everything the capital subcommittee does.
No, the capital, no, if they went through there, that's fine for the yes vote. But
No, but legitimately, you brought up a good issue that we haven't gotten definitive numbers. We're told it saves money. We're told it used to save money. Okay, where's the beef?
You're right.
Show the data.
Yeah, I have sources that's telling me.
Spirit of New Year, in God we trust, all others bring data.
Right, exactly.
Or cash.
All right, let's talk about Article 11 for a second. This is something I know a little bit about. This veterans group has been on a mission for 2 or 3 years to have some names inscribed at a town park for veterans, and there were 2 components to this thing. One was some names that had been left off of some prior stonework for veterans, just an oversight, I guess. And I think that's the subject of this proposed article, the 17,000. There was a larger request for veterans from 2001 forward. That there was a request that ranged anywhere from 60,000 to 200,000 and up. There was a lot of back and forth with various town departments and this veteran group, and we had a meeting or two with them at the Capitol level. There was some disputes about where the names were going to be placed, et cetera. Long and short of it is the Parks Department was going to be the sponsor of that article. They elected not to sponsor that article, so the big piece has been put off for purposes of the October meeting. This appears to be the residual piece, which is the so-called leftover names. I'm not sure exactly where the 17,410 comes from, but that sounds like about the number that we've that's a quote, okay.
That was sent out.
Okay, I recall it being between 15 and 20,000, so that sounds right. So that's the background. Do people feel like they need to hear from anyone in the Veterans Office, or Al?
Motion favorable. Decided to accept.
I'll second that.
Second.
Met with them several
Okay,
times.
about 5 seconds. I'll give it to Vin.
Yes.
Yes from Dave?
Yes.
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 Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a unanimous
And just a note, Mr. Chairman, those names are to be placed on the black garnet marble monument that's already existing in the park. It's the low-lying one. The other one you referred to is the construction of a brand-new monument.
That's totally different.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Thank you, Vin. So that was, what article number
11.
was that? That was 11. Okay. Okay.
I can talk to 17 and 18.
All right, go ahead. Talk to 17 and 18.
Okay, 17 is a long history. We have what's called a dry fire suppression system, which means the last bit of each sprinkler is full of air, which causes it to rot, which over the years now is filled up with sludge. We're changing that system to a wet system, which means the water goes throughout the whole system. Now, if you remember back in the Boston rehabilitation days where the pilings were rotting out because the water was going down low, and now the piling was exposed to air and it rotted, that's what happens on a dry system. There's still water in the sprinklers. It's just the last bit. We originally thought we knew what we wanted, and it was $50,000 bid, and that's what town meeting approved. When they went and looked again and said, okay, wait a minute, is that all in? And the estimate went to $170,000. Part of it was the hyperinflation module, but the other part was that we literally didn't know how to ask all the right questions. So now we went out to bid again, and we realized that it did not include the walls they're ripping up, putting them back together. It didn't include everything. So when they put the bid out to include not to exceed stem to stern, it became one bid at $435, one bid at $499. So this $320,000, $330,000 is in addition to the $170 already in to bring us to $500 to be safe. I don't see a choice in it because you have to have a fire suppression system. If that system went off now, the sludge coming out of the sprinkler heads would ruin a lot of books.
And we're in the library?
Yeah. So what they're asking for is the latest and greatest. And they told us point blank, when they did the original bids, they didn't understand all the facets of doing this. That's why it came in at 50 and then 170 and now 499. We asked them because it seems like we don't get not to exceed bids. So I asked that they reach out to the vendors who bid and get a guarantee not to exceed bid for at least 6 months after November 1st. I don't think it'll take 6 months, but what I don't want to have is to get halfway through and then find out we need another $10. So this is all about bringing it up to 500. Hopefully, we'll only spend 430 and putting in the system.
So just on the math, didn't we already allocate 170?
170.
So if it's 500 estimate, 170, that would be 330. So how do we get to 375?
I wish I knew. Because when we were there, we said 330. And they said, well, we'll make it 350. And I said, well, that's above the 500. And then it shows up on the warrant at 75, well, 45 more. So this math comes out to 545,000.
Do we need to bring somebody in?
I wouldn't say so, because they can't spend it on anything but the fire suppression system.
Yeah. David?
So this goes back to the last meeting, like, who is going to be overseeing this project, just to make
That's a good question.
What was that name? Clerk of the Works?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause this is
Still Clerk of the Works.
Business cards over there?
this is like the third
Yes, if not more.
project, at least recently, that we've messed up the bidding process or the estimate process, and I don't know if the town has somebody that should just be, designated to oversee these projects so they can bid on it or whatever. Like, we have another one coming up, I guess, in the warrant as well for the park, town park. So it just seems like we're just like we're not vetting the projects correctly at the point of when it's happening.
I have that concern as well. The scope of the projects going on at the town park, I think, at Pheno Field, those level of projects, I think everyone is recognizing now that they needed more skill levels than they had, and that whether it's a clerk of the works or a superintendent or whatever, they needed somebody. Now, on something one tier down like this, should there be somebody in town government that's responsible for overseeing something like this that may not require a great deal of expertise, but somebody who's familiar with doing building projects? I don't even know who's running this right now. Is the library director running this?
It would be.
That's
It's not ideal. It's not ideal.
Okay, ideal's a better word than scary. I'll take that.
Well, one thing is that amount of money there, the 375, we could tell them that we want them to hire somebody with the extra money to oversee the project.
I would think so.
They already have their person overseeing the project.
Who's their person?
No, whoever the sprinkler company is.
But our side.
But that's the vendor. That's the vendor, right? That's the Fox.
We have a building commissioner and 2 assistant building commissioners, so maybe on some of these small projects, one of them could assist with. Because it doesn't something that you have to babysit 40 hours a week, it just needs someone to check in or touch base.
And that may be legit, that we ask the building commissioner if they can oversee it. If they can't, we hire somebody.
Right.
But I agree with David that the days of shooting from the hip, they're biting us too many times.
It seems that way.
It's supposed to get inspected. Those jobs are supposed to get inspected. Well, the fire department.
No, but just cost. I mean, someone could say,
Yeah, I mean, that's so the work get done, but as far as the cost, the fire department's not going to help you there, right? You need somebody with a little bit of expertise.
I like the idea that they brought up. Let's leave the 375 and tell them we want you to ask the building commissioners if they can oversee it. If they can't, hire somebody.
Well, how do we...
It's not a full-time job.
How do we procedurally do this, though? I mean, do we need to bring them in next week? I mean, are we going to just start editorializing? What are we going to do, send them an email saying we're favorable, but?
Do you agree? If they say no, bring them in.
Who's asking?
I think that would be me.
It's either you or me.
I think question for you all, though. So I agree with this conversation. I think that we need more support in the town. I think the department heads and committees generally need more support. If we gave that instruction, you need to hire somebody, you think they have any idea who to go hire? Because if they ask me, I don't know who to hire. Like, I'm like, they might need more support than that. Like, I don't know how to actually help this.
Somebody like Jonathan, Bruce.
Yeah, it'd be a good
and the
choice.
school building committee, they could ask different people who have hired clerks of the works.
Right.
Because obviously, we don't need the same level of commitment of time.
It's a smaller project.
Maybe that's something your facilities director, Carlos Benjamin, maybe,
Yeah.
something like that.
What we're saying is we want somebody overseeing this and reporting.
And making sure the design is, of the scope of work is right. I mean, we missed putting the building back together again, right? I mean, we missed some big stuff in the first bid, so, yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
So it sounds like we're going to have a request for acceptance with a condition. Al, they've been in front of you. If you want to have a conversation
I'll
with
talk
them,
to
that's
them
fine. Okay, is there any other discussion on that matter for tonight's purposes? And if they're not agreeable,
Then we'll have them
you
in.
tell them to come visit us on the 9th. Yeah, okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Al.
What's the motion?
That we accept $375,000, but recommend that in that project, somebody be designated as clerk of the works.
Well, yeah, I mean, rather than what we recommend, I would be more stern than that. I would say it's conditioned upon.
Yeah.
And if they don't agree to the condition, they have to come visit.
Right.
I'll second that one.
Okay, seconded by Dave. Okay, Dave?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a unanimous recommendation to accept, subject to the condition, Al, to follow up with, it's Sue, right?
Sue Esser. 18 has been in the budget for 3 years, been in the capital plan. It's to replace carpeting in the children's room and some adult area furnishings in the lower floor. We went down, we looked at it. Gets a lot of traffic, it's getting tired, it's about time.
Okay. Discussion, questions, motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, motion by Dave to accept,
Second.
seconded by Vin. Nothing further. Dave?
Yes.
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 Brent?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 18, a unanimous motion to accept. I'll talk for a second about 24, which is the Town Park building. So you may recall that at the last town meeting, or was it October, there was an article to give the Parks Department $2 million to do three things: to renovate the town park, to establish a shed / improved bathhouse / whatever, some structure on that property, and then to rehab the basketball courts across from the youth center. So their commission was to do all that for $2 million. For those of you not on the capital committee, what happened is the $2 million has been committed, but they're only getting done one of those three things, the rehabilitation of the town park. The other two, they do not have sufficient funding for. And there was some discussion about whether they should have gone forward with the commitments when they saw they didn't have the funding that they needed to do the three things. But in any event, here we are. And an issue that we have is among that $2 million that we're spending is a grant for $1.35 million. And as I understand it, the grant has as a condition that that structure, which is not part of the $2 million at present, needs to be completed by the end of calendar '25. So I think everyone has concluded that we probably need to get this project done. we did not feel comfortable that anyone was prepared to give us at this time a proposal for exactly the scope of the work on the structure or the cost of the structure. It's on the article list right now. It's my understanding that they want to keep it there, but they expect to pass it over. I think they want to make it clear to town meeting that somebody will be back for the May meeting to fund this. There was a whisper number or a pencil-in number of $1 million for that. We're certainly hoping it's going to be significantly less than that. It's still unclear to me who's going to be sponsoring that ultimate article in May, what the scope of the project is going to be, et cetera. So I don't expect anything substantive to happen. There was an ask for us to allow this to move forward in October, and we told them that we did not feel comfortable that all of the issues had been adequately addressed. But we do recognize that there is a grant funding revocation issue if we don't act in a timely way on this, which would outweigh, that cost would outweigh any benefits in scaling back that particular part of the project.
That's a good question.
Go ahead, Carly.
If it does get passed over to May, and you said the end of '25, it needs to be complete to suffice for the grant, do they have enough time?
My understanding is what they told me was they thought they would have enough time, and the person who was involved in writing the grant seemed to think that if it was a work in process, they'd be able to get any reasonable extension that they needed. Al?
I think you're on the right track, because this idea of the nose of the camel, just get something approved. It was $2 million for 3 things. One part of it ate up all $2 million. We should not have gone forward. Period, end of story. And now when I look at what was submitted as Article 24, the justification is renovation of the existing bathroom and storage building at the town park. This will include new walls, doors, fixtures, roof, plumbing, mechanical and electrical of a new storage room. Work also includes expansion to the park bandstand roof and repair of the bleacher system at the baseball field. Now, what they told us was they were not going to do the bandstand. I've got a fundamental problem going to town meeting saying, for $1, I get these 3 things. Oh, just kidding. I took your $1 and you're only going to get 2 things. A resident who's knowledgeable in the disability mentioned that the idea of having 3 bathrooms, one a male, one a female, one a family, is not required for ADA, that a single family bathroom would be enough. Well, again, where have we discussed 3 bathrooms? And what really threw me for a loop was, we met, 2 weeks ago? And it was going to be bid out and have the bids come in and discussed at town meeting, and I went, time out. We're going to rush this thing in 4 weeks?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I agree with everything what Al's saying. My only concern is that I think we're going to need the 7-month runway, because when you say they think they can get it done on time, that doesn't really create a sense of security that it's going to get done on time. So I don't know if we can change the warrant or they can get something else done, but I think they're going to need the extra 7 months.
Well, when you say the extra 7 months, if it gets approved at the May article, they would have 7 months to complete it.
Right, I think they need from October to May as 7 months, I think.
No, it's December of 2025.
Right, but if we approve now, they can get, if we don't approve, but if it goes to the town meeting and it gets approved at town meeting, they have an extra, they'll have 14 months to get this done instead of 7.
Well, yes, but we'd have to approve something.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Really
what
nothing.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, what we can approve, just because I don't have a comfort feeling. When you said they think they can get it done, it just really doesn't feel good.
Dave, I think you're on to something, and what Carly said is the most important piece. Does it have to be completed by December 2025? Or if we're halfway through, or 3/4 of the way through, is that good enough?
Or put on contract, the funds obligated.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we've already committed.
My other question would be, I can't remember, this is saying renovated, so that tells me the building's still there, although I didn't
Yes.
think the building was. Are they going to somehow, I don't know, drive over something they've just completed? I don't know how they could renovate and get equipment in there and not ruin something they could have potentially just finished.
I don't know how we got to this point. This is just insane.
So Dave, I understand your perspective. I think my take would be, if we're sitting here today and don't have a plan, everything else said was completely right. 100% agree with exactly the promise and what we signed up for and then where we are and what we're getting. But we don't have a plan in front of us to approve something. And I'm in no rush to start just throwing money at people to save the grant, which I think from memory, I'm probably wrong, is probably $600,000, $700,000, which is not insignificant, but...
No, the grant was 1.3, I believe.
Oh, I got that inverse. Okay.
Yeah.
So 1.3, but we've already got scale of that is sort of a risk of waste, right? So we got to be careful that we just don't I don't want to give up the grant money, but we can't just approve money without a plan.
No, I mean,
save the grant money.
We need to finish a park, though.
I know, but the
100% agree.
notion that something that was mishandled, we're now going to rush to phase 2 without a plan does not sound to me like a good idea under any circumstances.
No, I totally agree with you. The only issue I have is that I don't know if we're going to get it done.
Well, if they can't get it done, then they shouldn't be the sponsor in May. They don't have to be the sponsor. Somebody else can be the sponsor.
Well, but I think it's really, the clarification we have to understand is, does it have to be completed or can it be in process?
I sat in a room with the grant writer and asked these questions, and he believed that A, May to December should be more than adequate time to do this job, and B, if it did not get done, but the work was actively in process, he expected, I don't think he's going to be able to get anybody an ironclad guarantee, but he expected they would be able to get a quarter extension or whatever it is they need.
If you remember when I asked, $900,000 for a bathroom?
Yeah.
Seems pretty expensive. And he said, well, no, it's 3, and all the electric will probably be diverted into this house because the old town park had individual electric services to each court. This will all be central. There were too many, I think, maybe possible.
Do we get a breakdown of the estimates? To see how much is for labor, how much is for materials,
No,
how
they
much
were
is
going out to
profit?
bid now and hoping to get the bid by next week or so.
Hopefully they get a breakdown of each individual category.
So I thought the grant was already committed. The funds were already committed from the state, because when Mitch was here, I thought he's the one that did the grant and he committed the funds, right?
No.
So within that grant, maybe have Mitch come in, did it say that we need to get a bathroom done? Was that part of the scope of
The
work?
structure is part of the scope of the
structure.
work. It's part of the grant.
Structure's there.
Have you been in it?
Oh, no, there's no.
But David, with all due respect, when I read, and maybe it's just me not understanding, this will include new walls, doors, fixtures, new roof, plumbing, mechanical.
That's my point is, what did
That doesn't sound like they're renovating, sounds like they're wiping out.
Right, right. So what did the original grant
You're
say?
asking the question, what was the scope of the grant compared to this scope?
Correct.
We don't know that. We got 7 months between now and May
know
to
that,
get answers.
right.
But nothing's happening right now, so we don't need to know that today.
No, I'm bringing something up so you can go research and
It's
do
an
it.
entirely, so I can research it.
It doesn't say demolition of existing structure.
Well, I don't think the burden is on us to run the project here, right?
No, our burden is to sit here and listen to someone persuade us that whatever it is they're doing is reasonable.
This is right, so, it's 9 o'clock.
Okay. Yes, Paul?
Quick comment,
Yeah.
do we know how long it took to build the building at Pheno Field Pool? Because that would be a similar thing that has bathhouses and whatever, it's a small building. Did that take more than 6 months to build?
I
That
don't
might
think
be a
so.
question to ask.
Winter months, you're going to lose months.
I think I agree with
I don't
everything you
know why
guys are
this
saying, but this is not actionable. Like there's nothing we can do here. There's nothing for us to review.
Are you going to build this building?
Can we change the wording in the warrant now?
To do what?
Huh?
To do what? They have no bids, there's no scope. What is it that you want to do, David?
I do
We
want to see the
can't
park
change
put
the
back together.
wording.
I want to see the park put back together, but I think the
It's
burden's
my
on somebody
understanding
to
that
come with a plan.
their intention, the sponsor of this article's intention is to pass this over. So they're even acknowledging.
passing it over?
They're even acknowledging they're not ready.
I don't think it's a good idea to pass it over, that's the thing.
They said they would not fight to pass it over because
think
they
they
don't
can-
have anything to present.
If they think they can get it done in 7 months, good for them, but I just, I don't know. That's, yeah.
It's on there to pass over.
What's that?
It's on there to pass over, so.
I mean, it's,
My
I
understanding
don't want
is.
to lose 1.3 million of grant money, though.
My understanding is that they wanted to keep it on just so that people didn't forget that we're going to need some money in May. That's why they want to keep it
But my concern
on.
is the 1.3 million is not for the bathhouse or the bathroom, it's to complete what's out there now, right?
To complete what's out there.
No.
The 1.3 is for all three parts.
Right, but they're running out of money, so if we don't get the 1.3, we're gonna have to come up with 1.3 million to complete that park,
Understood.
even without doing the
Right.
bathroom.
Yes.
That's my concern. So,
Understood.
Okay.
And hopefully, they're ready to hit ground the week after town meeting in May. We didn't create this situation, David.
no,
We didn't create this problem.
well, I'm just thinking what I went up there and said, at town meeting, let's get
You want
this
to
done.
volunteer your services for whatever it is they need to do?
20.
Well, first of all, can we get a motion to pass over? Or,
Recommend pass over.
Motion to pass over.
Pass over.
I'm going to take a motion to pass over from Lauren,
I'll second.
seconded by Carly. Just for that, I'm going to start over there. Lauren,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
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 okay. So that's a unanimous pass over on 24.
20.
20, you've seen the movie on the trailer? Go ahead.
Basically, what they're asking for is $10,000 to buy a trailer to be able to move their equipment from Vernon Grove to Purchase Street. We asked Vernon Grove Cemetery to take over Purchase Street because it wasn't being maintained. People were going up there to see their loved ones and having grass and less than optimal. So they're saying now that they got a problem because they got a little trailer and they got to make multiple trips and the equipment doesn't fit right on the trailer and the trailer's old. And we've been budgeting this for a number of years in the capital plan. It's 10 grand. I don't see a reason not to.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Lauren,
Second.
seconded by Vin. Dave?
Yes.
Vin?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
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 Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 19 out of the 30.
We still got a couple more to do.
Well, you're cracking the whip.
19.
Well, I was going to say 8 looks like an easy one. Establishing a water enterprise fund?
Oh, you can do that one too.
Okay. I don't know if you know anything about this, Brant, but it sounds like they just want to do the equivalent of what the sewer department has, which is,
Exactly what they want.
let's see, establish a special purpose stabilization account for the water enterprise. So this is just so that they can start building up some cash for projects, I assume. Discussion, questions, motion?
I think my question.
Motion to approve.
I didn't know about this one yet, so I'll keep going for a second.
Sure.
So, is this just an accounting, or is this like a request for any funding? This is just creating an account.
We've been told this is non-monetary.
This is establishing.
This is,
It would be where their retained earnings would be put into the stabilization account, and then it could be invested as the sewer and the town also have similar stabilization accounts allowable by Mass General Law, Chapter 45B.
Perfect. I'm happy to second Lauren's motion then.
okay, motion by Lauren, second by Brant. Dave?
Yes.
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 Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, that's a unanimous motion to accept on Article 8. That's 20 out of the 30. Is there one more you want to
19.
do? 19.
Fence around Vernon Grove.
Fence, go ahead.
Basically, the fence is old. We've been talking about replacing the fence. There's a 400-foot section along an area that's already falling apart because trees have fallen on it. It's been budgeted, we've been talking about it for 2-3 years. They can come in and explain.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Lauren, second by Carly.
Yes.
Dave? Ben?
Wait a minute, Al said refer?
No,
No, this,
approve.
This
I
is-
thought I heard refer somewhere. Okay, yes.
Al?
Yes.
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 Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, so that was Article 19. So,
Now, we can also talk about 21 and 22, since that's been on the,
well, we could,
Yeah.
but do people want to? We're 21 articles out of 30 right now. Do people want to go for a few more minutes, or do you want to finish up on the 9th?
I'd like to finish.
Night or on the
You'd
night?
like to finish? You'd like to
I
finish?
mean, keep going, keep going. Let's get this done.
Okay, just so everybody's clear, we are going to have to meet on the 9th. At the
Oh,
moment,
all right, then let's wait. No.
so we're 2/3 of the way done, which is very good, and I thank everybody for their cooperation tonight. As far as the 9th, right now, I've got 3 people listed that I think we're going to need to have here. One is the Personnel Board for those 2 items that we talked about earlier. The second is Scott Christofoli to talk briefly about his sprinklers in his leaf truck. And third is the police chief to talk about the family unit, and incidentally, he can talk about his non-monetary article. Is there anybody, and then maybe Sue, depending on your Al's
Water
discussion.
Commission easement,
Water,
number 2.
so this is an article you want to try to get done now?
Why not?
Yeah, okay. It looks like they want to give an easement to the electric company across their property.
Make that motion to refer to sponsor on that one?
Yep.
Dave, refer to sponsor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vin. Okay, roll call, Dave.
Yes.
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 Lauren.
Yes.
Chuck.
Yes.
Okay, so that's Article 2, refer to sponsor. I think we did pretty good this one.
Yeah, we could knock off, I mean, are we going to have any discussion on the leaf truck?
Well, I mean, is Scott going to be here? I guess, do we need?
Well, the question is, do we need him here? If we talk about sprinkler system that we've been talking about for a couple of years and leaf truck, that you become the most...
Does he need to be here for the waste and recycling manager? I know that's Personnel Board, but isn't that kind of Scott?
Yeah, he probably should.
So if we're going to need him,
If he's going to come in for that, bring him in for all 3.
yeah.
But 21 and 22, just to be clear, are on the capital, have been on the capital plan.
Been on our plan, we
Right?
vetted it, we went through it, and anybody who votes against the leaf truck will become instantly the most unpopular person in town.
They'll be the one with the big pile of leaves in their front.
Will this be to replace or augment the previous one?
Augment and have the previous one be a backup just in case.
And so, now that our guests are gone, just give me a chance to take a step back on 5,000 feet. I was asked earlier, and to Al's point, that we're doing all these provisional acceptances, but if people haven't run the math, I just want to give people an idea of the big picture. The big picture is the free cash, I think that's been finalized now, Paul, correct?
4.7.
You mean 7.4? Yeah, you concerned me there for a second.
What happened to the 2 million?
Here goes that leaf.
So free cash is 7.4 million-ish. If you added up everything on this list of the so-called monetary articles, the grand total would be about 3.7, but that 3.7 includes $1 million that was penciled in for the town park, which we anticipate is going to be passed over. And that also includes the 400 and some odd thousand for the cameras, which we discussed passing over. So we will finalize the recommendations on the articles, and then we'll have a discussion with Zach on Wednesday about the various buckets where the money is going to go, namely capital, taxpayer levy relief, depositing funds into the stabilization funds, short or long-term, or number 4, leaving funds in undesignated balances, which can be used for a variety of purposes. If there's a shortfall of revenues, it becomes beginning cash for the following year if it's not expended, clearing out snow and ice, et cetera. So those discussions can be finalized on the Sal.
The only thing I would be cautious about is when we say we don't need the money now, we do, because we got to pretend that we're spending it, because it's the same fiscal year. So $1 million for a toilet at Town Park and $400,000 for cameras, we got to make sure that there's 1.4 million.
Yes.
So instead of leaving $1.5 million to $2 million for the spring, we're talking about making sure we leave $3 million for the spring.
I completely agree. We have to anticipate a lot of that money will need to be spent in May. Hopefully, it will be less than the numbers that people are talking about now. But I agree with Al's point. We can't pretend that this money just gets socked away because we know these things are coming in May.
Didn't we fund a capital account in the past?
1.7.
Can we fund the 1.4 into a capital account or no?
What do you mean the 1.4?
What's the 1.7? Is that what we're going to fund now?
1.7 is what we put into our annual budget for capital expense.
Okay.
So if you say we're going to spend $4 million, then $2.3 million's got to come out of somewhere, typically free
And that
cash.
included stuff that we spent in May already last year. So last May's capital was built on the 25 budget. So some of the stuff that was bought.
No, that gets washed, doesn't it, Paul?
Because it was for the current fiscal year.
Come July 1st.
Not for articles. Articles don't clear out, so.
They carry over until the project is complete.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it gets charged to last year.
No, because if it was paid out of free cash, it would have been charged last year. If it comes out of the 1.75,
Okay.
that's in the fiscal year that we're planning for FY25.
But I thought everything we spent last year came out of free cash of last year. I didn't know we were holding money for...
Part of the allocations in May were through raise and appropriate, which is on this year's tax recap, which happens.
Okay, so we need to know how much of an old bill we have.
It's accounted for in the total funding schedule that we've already put together.
So the $2.5 million or 2 3/4 that we spent on capital in May, that came out of raise and appropriate and the other ancillary funds for the year ending, for the budget that we put together in May. Correct, Paul? Yeah. And so now we have the extra 7.4 that comes in, and now we're starting fresh reallocating that. So the 7.4 does not get impacted by the 2.7 that we spent on the youth center and the Central Street project or whatever it was.
Articles last May was 2.5 million.
Yeah.
So that was about 700 or 800,000 more than the 1.75. But that was what the committee approved. So
So you're saying that out of the 7.4 million, we really only have 6.7? Is that what you're saying?
No, we have 7.4.
Where are you taking 700,000 from?
Well, he's saying that he left over 700,000.
No, I think what he's saying is that we normally, well, at the beginning of last year, we were anticipating spending $1,750,000.
Right.
That went up to $2.5 million, but all of that came from existing funds, not from the free
Yeah,
cash.
so the number that lowered to balance that out was the excess levy capacity of the goal of, I think last year was it for 5 million or whatever the number was. So that number was reduced.
It was like 4.3, whereas we were shooting for like 5.7.
Yeah, so that came down because of the, in order to balance everything. For May, you have to have a balanced budget.
But as of July 1st,
Yeah.
we have 1.75 that we budgeted for capital, plus 7.4 of free cash. Is that not correct?
Well, of the 1.75, 2.5 have already been spent.
We originally budgeted $1,750,000, then the allocation changed to $2.5 million, effectively coming out of levy relief. So that was the snapshot before we got to free cash. But we can deal with this more on the 9th.
So to go back, so of the 7.4, could we set aside $1 million for the park?
We probably will.
Okay.
Something to that effect.
You have to
right?
set aside That's why I said it's, normally we like to leave $1.5 million for the spring. You're gonna have to leave like $3 million, because you gotta pretend you're gonna spend that money, because it'll be spent this year. Maybe not in October, but in May.
Right.
Have we done enough? I'm tired.
You got a lot done.
I think we got a lot done. We're 3/4 of the way done. Hopefully, next Wednesday won't be quite as long. Motion adjourned? By Vin? Second. By Brant? Dave, final vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Lauren?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yeah.
All right, have a good night on Zoom. Take care.
See you next week.